Let's start the sermon by chanting the Namaskara, observing the precepts. Let us take a moment to appreciate our good fortune to be here today and be able to listen to the Dhamma, practice the Dhamma, and work on our salvation. We're chanting the Namaskara and paying our homage to the Perfect One, our Lord Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Terasane. So the week before last, I was not able to come because actually I was the problems that usually happen, like having a cold, having a headache, having a fever, these were not the problems I had. Actually, everything was fine. My voice was also there, but I had a wound at the foot. So there was a small wound and it got infected. And then as I was a little bit careless with that wound, that means I didn't do anything about that wound, and then it grew and grew. So then it got to a point where walking became a bit hard, and where it was really in danger of something bad happening. So I had to take antibiotics, and then the doctor said I should rest. And so then that happened. But I learned from that it's better to take care of these things early enough. Anyways, I hope that Dasahamru was able to have a good and insightful morning with you, and you learned something from discussing the Dhamma with him. Last week we had another. Last Sunday there was I think nothing special on that day, but following the Sunday came, of course, the holidays, Aurudu. So for that reason also, sermon was not there. So we see each other now after 3 weeks. Anyways, I hope you had good holidays. Whatever that means for you. I was told by Mrs. Bandara that in Colombo the Aurudu is not something so commonly celebrated. That big, I think. But I think that some sweets have been there, or some kind of, at least some rest for you. So for us also at the holiday, for us at the monastery also, we didn't feel that much difference. Yes, the food that came into our alms bowl was somewhat different, but when you contemplate on Dhamma, then you know there's only a superficial difference. Anyway, so today my idea was not to do that much meditation, although I would like to do that as a concept regularly, like when we start maybe reframing the morning in terms of meditation, we will do that. But actually today I had one topic in my mind that I wanted to talk about. But if you have a question you would like to ask, that's also fine. But I'll be able to suggest to you the topic I thought I wanted to explore with you together was the topic of relationships, as in a topic that's all concerning us, and talk about that, something, whatever I understand, what we should learn about relationships, what we should know, and what the Dhamma and what the Buddha has taught about that. It's just one of the topics which these are some of the maybe things that bother people, or things that we all have problems with. That is an idea, that's a suggestion. If you have some other question to ask me, you could also do that now, preferably, because I can use my time to explore that, your question. So, how about that? Any questions that you would like to ask that I can take my time to answer today, to explore? So then I will go into this topic of relationships, if you are okay with that. Let's see where we'll go. Of course, you can always ask questions in the meanwhile, right? So the question that I had written down on my paper here is, why do relationships often lead to happiness, but also to suffering? So that question, I think, is a question that many people might wonder about. I think the suffering part when it comes to relationships, so I'm not saying this is something just related to being married with someone. It could be having a friendship, it could be the relationship between us and our parents, or between us and our children. It can be many kinds of relationships, right? But the happiness part is, of course, always what we aim to have, isn't it? In anything as well as in relationships. The suffering part has so many different sides. Some of the sides are very much known to all of us, right? I mean, suffering can be when we lose the person that we like, that we love. I mean, that is something that everyone knows, that it's part of life, and yes, that's how it is. I think for me, when I was a teenager, I haven't experienced something called grief loss in my life. So that is, of course, one of the things, but I think what you and me, what we all probably know very well in our lives, either from our own lives or from other people's lives, is that when it comes to relationships, especially when it comes to these romantic relationships, or when it comes to being married, or having a partner, as nice as they start, as great as it is at the beginning, sometimes for some people these turn out to be real, I don't know, like difficult situations later on, right? I mean, I remember when I grew up, I always looked at the parents of my friends and the generations above us, of me and my friends, the generation above. So all of them I observed this. I mean, these questions really, from this question alone, I learned so much. The question of relationships. I think one of the biggest reasons why I am here today is because of asking myself that question. Not that I am telling you that the answer that I found was relationships are something bad and therefore I ran away from everything and became a monk. So I'm never going to tell you that message. But it's really a profound question to which answers will be very, very helpful and freeing as well. So let's see where we can end up. For me, I don't know how your experience is over your life that you had until today, but certainly I felt the beginning of a relationship, let's say in a romantic or as a partner, is always very easy, right? But then later onwards it becomes not as easy as at the beginning, I have to say. At least, I experienced it in my own life as well as in other people's life. So see when I was a teenager and young adult, these relationships that people had in Germany, just like normally, I think it's not much different in here at least as well. These are naturally never that long lasting. I mean, maybe a year or 2 or 3, sometimes even 5. But I mean, this is the phase when everyone is young and finding himself, and no one really knows where to go in life. You don't know what are you going to study, where are you going to live, what's going to be your job, and so on, right? So then of course we can understand that. But whenever I observed the generation above me, I certainly felt there was some kind of a strange dilemma, because my parents and others always used to tell me, relationship is one of the most important things in life, and according to that, for example, Christian ideal, I don't know what ideal exists in here, but I might feel it might be different, might be similar. There was always this ideal: find the right one, find the right person, and marry. And once you marry, however, don't break that, right? So you must look closely, find the right one, and then when you find the right one, then your life is going to be great, right? So that's what I learned, and that's not easy to do as well. I mean, it was not easy for me to decide. Making a decision was not really easy. Anyways, so the question, I think, has something to do, asking this question, how to understand that sometimes when everything seems so great at the beginning, why does it have to turn out in ways which are so different later onwards, right? Why is it that sometimes maybe couples, when they when they meet each other, everything is great, but later onwards, seeing each other becomes the worst thing. I mean, it's just the last thing you want to do. I mean, I have seen couples living in a way where they would just live next to each other, but not with each other. That means the wife comes down to the living room. She's having her morning breakfast, and then the man comes down, the husband comes down, and he is having his breakfast. No one's really talking because no one can stand the sight of each other. and with every word being spoken, the tension is in the air, and what does he want to say with that again? Like, every word has the power to be misunderstood by the other person. So constantly these kind of tensions are there. So and so I don't know that much about this topic in terms of maybe experience-wise. There are people who have more experience, but I just try to give you my best understanding together with the bit of Dhamma that I know, in order for you to hopefully learn something and also understand better how to deal with these relationships. Since of course relationships are never things that we can avoid having, right? We all have relationships in one way or another, so there's nothing we can do about that, and it is not the goal to remove them. It's impossible anyways. Yesterday when I was learning French, I was seeing a kind of small video which talked about this new kind of phenomena in some people or in the society, where there are so many people that have a big fear to engage in how to say, to commit themselves, right? Something like that. Fear of committing. I think the generation like before, maybe my parents' generation, that used to be something very easy, committing. So it wasn't so hard. But I found that in my generation, these things becomes really, really difficult. This fear of so the same happened for me as well. I always felt, in terms of relationships, that whenever I was by myself, when I was traveling around the world or when I was just studying, then of course we feel the need. Maybe sometimes we have these feelings like being lonely, or we just like to have a person to talk with. We would like to spend our life with someone. We would like to share things with someone else. Show and share the nice moments with someone else. So these are the feelings we have. So that's when we typically like to find someone for our lives. So I always thought, certainly I can't be happy just being alone, because there's a void in my mind that I can't fill, that I need someone else. But when I was with someone else, funnily enough, many times another situation happened, which was, I felt that my privacy, maybe my freedom of doing what I want to do was gone. Sometimes so I no longer had the freedom to choose. Not necessarily I'm talking about choosing another person. That is not what I'm talking about. But I don't know, I guess just sometimes doing what you want to do. Because whenever you have to live with someone else, what typically happens is you have to make compromises, and you can't just, you can't design your day according to the way you would like to spend it, right? this time of the day I'm doing that, another time of the day I'm doing that, and then this and then that. That's a very individualistic lifestyle. And I always enjoyed that. Right? The life where I'm my master, where I'm the boss, so I decide how to spend my time. But with relationships, the problem is that's not so much possible. I'm sorry, maybe these problems are not, you don't have these problems, because I think it's actually a healthy ability to be able to compromise, right? So I think maybe today's younger generation, I don't know, might have more of this problem where everyone gets so used to having their individualistic way of living. Because it's always enforced by the media and by the society, right? Having a Facebook account and social media is all about individualism. And I don't know, I know it's very much so in the place where I came from. So individualism is always enforced, as well as things like when you became an adult, when you became 18, 19 years old, you move out of your parents' house, start your own life, and live in another place, in another city, with some other students. So that was also my life. Most of my life I was having that. So when these things when relationships comes, of course, there's always this friction where now you can't just have it your way, isn't it? Sometimes you will have your way and the other person has his or her way, so now a solution has to be found. And that's, I guess, I don't know, but for the moment, as far as at this moment I can contemplate on what has happened in my life, I would say these were the times when sometimes I would feel now I no longer have the freedom to do what I want. Then I wanted to be without. So then I wanted to remove myself from the relationship. But when I did that, what happened? For a while I was free again, and then I wanted that also, right? So it's like always going from one to the other, and then to the other one, and then to the other, and like that. Somehow both don't really work. So the documentary that I saw yesterday was, small video was about two people, and this was a man and a woman, and they were very, very happy at the beginning. Everything was great. And then this woman, I think she had some kind of internal fears, for example, maybe something like this thing I told you, this fear of losing your freedom, maybe, or the fear to commit yourself to someone, open up to someone, things like that. And she said that in her life what has happened is that many times after like 6 months of being in a relationship, she always used to run away from that relationship and break off everything, and then a new relationship started, and that's how it worked. So somehow she was not happy with that, but she couldn't commit, and anyway, so complicated things. When you lose a little bit of Buddhist philosophy, we can already learn something, which is why do we go into a relationship? Why did we want to have a relationship? Why do we want to have any relationship? Normally. If I think about my life, I can surely tell you, when I was traveling around the world, I had this idea, doing it alone is great, so that the activity is fun, but having someone else alongside would be more fun, would be better, right? Haven't you felt this feeling of it would be nice to have someone along my side? So, see, whenever we feel that having this in my life would be fun, there's something you can learn about your mind or the mind at that moment. Because there's some kind of a void, right? Some kind of something that wants to be filled. In this case, we call it maybe loneliness, or loneliness again is a big word, so that maybe is too strong of a word to say. I mean, I'm not saying that I was lonely. Oh, I'm so lonely, I don't have anyone. Not like that. But it would be nice to have someone in my life. So there's some sort of a void. So think about all the reasons why you wanted to be in a relationship, or why anyone wants to be in a relationship. Even, I mean, there can be many reasons, because I can spend time, we can do these things together. For example, I always love to have someone with whom I can go hiking together, hiking through nature. That was something I really like to do. The question I can ask myself, if I find someone with whom I can't do that, would I want to be with that person? Surely not, right? So think about the people that you spend your time with, the people you call you are in a relationship with. Most of them, why are we in a relationship with them? Because there is something that they give us, isn't it? Can you follow what I'm trying to say? There's something that they give us. That's what we feel. And that's why we find the use of being in that relationship. And the other way around as well. Right? For example, once my girlfriend at that time, she said, I really like it when you make a breakfast in the morning for me. I really like that. Why? Because it made her feel cared for. There's someone who cares for me. There's someone who takes care of me, who does things for me, who loves me. Right? That's what she felt when I made a breakfast for her. Imagine I wouldn't do that for her. Then of course she would probably not be as happy as she was anymore. So that I'm not saying that is selfish, no, but it is the way it is, right? Similarly, just as we have certain things that we have certain needs and wants, or let's say wants. There are certain things we want. So there can be so many things. I am just going to write down some of these things, so we can recognize that we have these things. Right? Okay. So what are reasons for a relationship? Wanting to be loved. Spending time together. then sometimes it could be the other person has money, and that money gives me financial stability as well as the ability to spend it on something that I like to do, right?
Loneliness.
Loneliness. Yeah, loneliness. So the point of this exercise is a little bit to understand, see, whatever it is that makes you, whatever it is that he or she makes you happy with, that's one thing you have to recognize. You have to ask yourself, what makes me happy in that relationship? When you understand that, you can also understand what is the void that you have in your mind. That's where the Dhamma comes in, because normally people don't recognize the connection between happiness they receive and the void that is in their mind. So let's continue. What else can be reasons? So when we're talking about the example I had, balancing your life, yes.
Extramatrimonial affairs, which are very prevalent at the moment, where not happy at all, want to leave the house, the obligations, the children, etc.
Yes.
Seek happiness elsewhere, then we balance the two.
Yes. See, that's where we see, when we're talking about extra marital affairs, without, let's not just take this moral and this is not good kind of a viewpoint that there is some truth to that. We have already discussed this, but we want to study it a bit more like a very much neutral, but with some understanding. Like, we want to study people and why they do that, right? Why does a person have an affair with someone? Why would that thought even come to someone's mind? Isn't it? If someone is really, really happy, would someone do that? That means if balance is there, do you need to? If a balance is there, do you need to make it balanced?
No.
Right.
What I meant is there is no balance.
Yes. Yeah.
They think that by having extramatrimonial affair, they can balance their life.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is where there is no balance, then they seek outside intervention to balance their life.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly true, and actually I'm just trying to explain the same thing, in the sense that, yes, so we can understand. Now we have to think about the mindset of that person who does that. Let's say if your mind is in balance, do you need to do something to make it balanced? No, because it's already balanced. That means to go and to seek the love of someone else, typically something that a person does when his mind is not in balance. And what does it mean when it is not in balance? That is, when there is a wanting, when there's some sort of a need, or now usually when I speak, when I say the word need, I usually want to refer to it as something that the body has, and it has nothing to do with the mind, then it's better to call it a want, right? Wanting, it could be the wanting to love, to be loved. Like, let's say a person goes into a relationship because, of course, one of the most important reasons is the wanting to be loved, the wanting to be, maybe for a hug. Like, I mean, why do we want to go in a relationship? Maybe because we like to be hugged, we like for someone to do things for us. We want to spend time with another person, to laugh with another person. Imagine all of these things are not there. You don't get any hugs, you don't get any smiles. The other person is not doing even anything for you. I mean, what is the question that comes into our mind if such a situation happens? We would ask ourselves, then what's the point of even having this, isn't it? What's the point of having it? So I'm just, so these things prove us that we go into a relationship because there are certain wants we would like to be filled. There's an imbalance that we have that we hope the relationship will fill. Okay. And likewise, if that doesn't happen, what will happen? Just as we have discussed right now, we're trying to fill it somewhere else. Now, think about your life and ask yourself this question. If your mind is not in balance in your life at this moment, is that a nice situation to be in? No, right? So what will automatically happen? Whether you don't have to do it consciously, but what will automatically happen if your mind is not in balance is what? It's trying to find the balance, isn't it? You will start asking yourself the question, why do I feel this way? And why is this problem there? And what can I do about it? Right? So in order to find the balance, people will do various things. Sometimes they will find balance by going to the counseling with the other person or talking with the other person. What's going on in our relationship? Why? Because I feel like this and that. Right? These are ways to find and restore the balance. And now, of course, if there's a certain, if all of these things don't seem to work, and if there's no other solution, then what do sometimes people do? Alcohol. Or they go and find someone else. Right? Not to say that it is something we should do, but we need to understand why people do that, because there's an imbalance which is big enough and there seem to be no other solutions to that, so then people do it. Not that it solves their problem, right? It doesn't solve any problem in the long run, but it sort of solves their problem at that moment, isn't it? Right? So now at least we understood. So we have a mind which has lots of these voids, isn't it? Can you see that? We had reasons to get into a relationship, which was there are certain voids that should be filled. Then there are some people who just really would like to have a family. It's not so much that they would really like to have a partner. Maybe they would like to have children, but for children you need a partner. Most of the times in today's society, I don't know what will happen in this society. Things can happen. Nowadays everything is possible, but so that can be another reason. Imagine there's a person who would really like to have children, and then he marries a man or a woman who seems to be good looking, kind, so this could be the perfect father or mother for my children, but when they try to have children, they can't. And you find out that the problem is not with you but with the other person. Then what thought will come into our mind, in your mind, in our mind at that time? Why did I choose that man? Because he doesn't give me what I want, right? So now this is where we can understand these selfish elements in relationships. See, we come into a relationship with a list of expectations that we would like the relationship to fill for us. And how about the other person? Same, isn't it? This is something we need to understand and acknowledge, because I used to think sometimes that this is something evil to want something, or like maybe at the beginning of my life I thought relationships, they are really pure and holy and really great. There's the love that you see when you see people walking hand in hand through the streets. That is love. So much love is there in the world, isn't it? Yeah. Infatuation. So, infatuation is no longer such a positive word, right? It has something naive. It has maybe even something selfish, right? So this is where now to talk about this is no longer step one of your life. Step one of life is love. Step two is understanding it's not just so simple, because there are selfish elements in relationships, both on my side and on the other side. And for me, see, I always felt, although I don't want to have these selfish elements, they are there. I don't even know what to do about them. So see, these selfish elements are there even if you know they are there, right? You might realize the same with you as well. You also had the same experience like me, maybe for a long time already. Sometimes you know the way you behave when there's a void in your mind, when there's something that you want, is not necessarily really to the best of the others, and you don't want to act like that, but still you do, right? Sometimes maybe because we are angry. I don't know. There are people, for example, who just they can't see. Maybe they have problem of jealousy, right? They can't see the other person behaving in certain ways, because that makes them feel in a certain way. So in order not to feel like that, they don't know any other solution but to tell, please don't behave like that, right? This could be ways that people do. So when we understand this is a give and take, and there's another point which is very connected to this point that I was trying to explain right now. See, imagine you don't want to have children in your life. You don't want. You just want to have a partner, but no children. Now, imagine that when you go into this relationship, you and your partner, now you start to have children. Maybe it was an accident, who knows? Imagine in this situation. Would you be happy about that? See, your partner gave you children. You have children. How happy does it make you? Not at all. Maybe sometimes it makes you really unhappy. So, how much happiness is in having a child? Or take another example. Me, what I always wanted is to find someone who can go hiking with me in nature. But maybe that is not something you like to do. So imagine hiking is not something you like to do, and you find someone that you can go hiking with. How much happiness is there in going hiking with that person, this activity? Nothing, right? So, see, because we always believe the happiness I am experiencing comes from the other person. There's something that the other person does which gives me happiness, isn't it? The happiness that I experience comes from the other person and is in that action, is in that person somehow. For example, when your partner gives you a nice compliment, or when he hugs you, or something like that. See, we automatically feel that the happiness we experience comes from there, isn't it? From that hug or from the words. So you take another person, maybe your partner, and ask yourself, what would happen if he would compliment you 3 hours in a row, 3 hours non-stop? Or maybe take your partner and he would hug you for 10 hours. 10 hours. How would that feel? Wouldn't you reject the hug after 10 minutes? Or something like that? Why? Because it feels only nice as long as the void that you had in your mind is filled, right? Beyond that, you don't have any value in that, whatever the person does. So, this is important to understand. Does it make sense? What doesn't happen? See, I can try to draw this graphically so you understand the difference. See, when I write the word love in red, it makes everything much different, right? If it's in blue, it's just not the same. Why? Actually, why? What has red to do with love? Does it have anything to do with love intrinsically? Or is that not simply the kind of the justification or advertisement and all this kind of constant framing messages that we have received over society, now that we're so used to feel love and red, somehow these are connected, right? So imagine this is a side point, but I want you to think about this more. Imagine you will find, if your partner will bring you blue flowers, there's Valentine's Day, and whoever the other person brings you blue flowers, or the other person brings you red roses. Now, would you feel the same about that? You wouldn't, because the redness of the roses and the roses, either the roses or the redness, both these things together, they have the love, right? The love is there, so you will feel like so happy because he loves me. Because red is, through the red, there's love. But when you get blue flowers, you don't feel like that. Maybe you feel the void inside you. Maybe you feel why. So sometimes there will be a conflict, because our mind really believes that this love comes from the outside world. Maybe the roses, from the words, from these external experiences. See, in this example here, that's typically the way we think the world works, is of course now hug, or maybe what we like to believe is, here's me, and I'm okay, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm just a human, and there's the other person. And when he comes, or she, or whatever, and hug, but you could also say maybe he's saying something nice to you, he's making a breakfast for you, whatever. Love and happiness comes to you. That love and happiness is what you feel and what you like, just like we all do. For example, he or she is giving you roses. Roses that look nice. This is what we usually believe about relationships. And there's a problem with that, which I want you to understand, because this is not what happens, as I gave you this example. If somebody were to hug you, maybe your partner, for 10 hours, would you like that? No. So then, can we really say that the hug brings love or happiness? Because somehow it seems like after 10 minutes, it no longer brings happiness, it brings now actually the opposite, unhappiness. Right? See, your partner can go hiking with you, but can he also make you happy? So where's the happiness coming? So you go hiking with another person, or you go to a restaurant with another person. It is the restaurant you always wanted to go to. You really like that restaurant, and you like your partner. Then you feel really happy. What did your partner do with that? Or what did the other person do? the happiness we feel never comes from there. The happiness that we feel is nothing more, and I have explained this before, but still, this is also important to realize, is nothing more than this void that's within us, getting like temporarily closing out, or like this void is released. So the only way someone can make you happy is by saying something that is what's fitting for your wound to be closed. But without a wound, what can we do? Without a wound, or without this void within us, the outside world has nothing to intrinsically to give to us, right? So we always feel this happiness. So this is not how it works. What really happens is this. Something like that. So this is the reason why sometimes when you try to do something for another person, he or she will be very happy about that. But when you do the same in another situation, it might be totally different. This is the reason why sometimes when you do the same thing too much, there's a point where another person will no longer like that. Because what he or she likes is not what you do. I mean, what you do cannot always make that person feel good. Right? Because, just a simple example, see, if your partner hasn't seen you for 2 or 3 weeks, seeing you is the greatest thing he can have at that moment. Seeing you will be the greatest thing, will be a great pleasure. But if you were to think that it makes your partner happy to see you, don't think like that. Because if you are with that, no, if you don't leave your partner at all, like you just be with that person always. See, now, simple example, you haven't seen your partner for 2 weeks, now he or she, now you come home and meet that person and you feel, he or she is so happy to see me. Then what should you do? Now you should always be by his or her side all the time, right? Will you make your partner happy like that? There comes a time when he or she doesn't want that anymore. Because what you're doing is, you're not giving happiness to this person, you can't. All you have really done is, there was a void and you just created an environment for this void to be released. Right? So it's not anything more than a wanting of that person, the wanting of that mind is like fulfilled. And the same happens with you as well. So this is how these happinesses work in relationships and in anywhere in life. Now, does that make sense? Still, maybe I'm failing to explain why this is so important to understand, but it's very important to understand.
So what you say is perception and
Yeah.
we all happiness is just a perception and meaning.
Yes, that is true. That is true, and that means as long as you stay in the myth, as long as you believe in the myth, you're bound to suffer. So this question that we are having here is, why do relationships often lead to happiness but also to suffering? So you need to understand, what is the happiness in a relationship? What is it really? And you can boil it down to a simple rule. Think about any situation that made you happy in a relationship. Any situation, you will find, what are examples? Now I think about my life. Examples. I have shared some of the stories. For the first kiss. Why was that happiness? The first kiss I had when I was, 18. Why was that happiness? Was it because of the kiss? Or was it because that is what I had been looking for? That I had been longing for that?
Because the void has been filled.
Yeah, because the void has been created in the mind due to the belief that this kiss and the love that this kiss will give me, and so on, these will be what can make me happy. So the void was created for the kiss, but the kiss has actually not brought anything. Why? How can we understand the kiss has not given anything? Because, see, would that person kissing another person, would that happiness also come to another person? No. So it must be only a perception, right? Like, normally if a man kisses another man, would any man feel happy about that? Most of them not. So if you can find one person in this world who doesn't feel the same happiness you feel when getting kissed by this person, then you can conclude that the happiness that you feel never came from the kiss. It's something that your mind creates. It's nothing more than the value that our mind has given to this object or to this experience, basically, right? And that can change very much. Like, for example, the moment when I had so much hopes for this girlfriend, she's so nice, she's so kind, she loves me, and so on. Now the idea was there, a kiss would be really nice, it's so valuable. But think about if, I don't know, I find out that she has another plan, that she actually plans to cheat on me, or maybe, I don't know, I spend some time with her and I see her doing things which are so unraveling that I don't find any attraction in it anymore. So what's the value that the mind gives to a kiss now? He wouldn't give any value, right?
Happiness turns into suffering.
Yes. Happiness turns into suffering. Why? Or what does that mean? See,
That external forces, that's just a myth and perception. That we get happiness by doing what we did, when in fact it was not.
yeah. Actually, to realize that the outside world, there's a myth that you are victim to, that is not something that brings you, that should not be a disappointing thing. That should not be something that should make you depressed. This should be something that what we're here, I'm not aiming to make you depressed. I'm aiming you to rescue you from the myth and uplift you to make something much more out of what you have than what you can currently do when you step out of the myth. that is something freeing. It should never make you depressed. So if ever you should feel that by coming here you become depressed, then it's fine to be depressed, but that is not what I intend to do. That must mean there's something you didn't get correctly. That can happen because sometimes we don't understand everything that's being said, or sometimes I don't explain things to the way that makes sense to you, or things like that can happen, but this is not the aim. So realizing coming out of the myth is freeing. That's what it should be. Now let's think about what the gentleman has said, when happiness turns into suffering. Now this is the thing. These are both illusions, actually, suffering and happiness. So this is both created by your mind. See, beauty, the beauty that we feel in the outside world. When I was a teenager and with 18 years old, and there was this girl, she looked beautiful, and I really thought that she was beautiful, and she's kind, and talking with her was nice, and she also liked physics as me, right? So then we had, that was even better. But I never understood what happened really in my mind. So based on all I knew, at that time, I had hopes. There were lots of hopes. Hopes for a kiss. Let's say it simply. Then when it happened, hopes turned into pleasure, right? So the kiss didn't bring the pleasure, the kiss didn't bring the happiness, the kiss was only an environment in which pleasure was created. Pleasure was created within me. Because what was this pleasure? It was the hopes. And what is another word for hopes? Expectations. Or a void. So the void, it's like the pressure cooker when you open the valve of a pressure cooker. That kind of process, that is what pleasure is. Yeah? The pressure reduces, the void closes. Or like there's a balloon and you prick the balloon, then like that. This is what you have to understand. Good. Now we are living in happiness. Now we are living in happiness, but this is actually a total dream. Because it feels good, but the kiss itself, I mean, all the value that we have given to the kiss, all that much which we are protecting, the objects and the people that are so valuable in our minds. This is all based on this idea that value is there, and the kiss brings me happiness. And therefore, of course, this pleasure, this happiness is not the end. I remember that after that kiss, for a few hours I was really happy, but was I done looking for happiness? No, I was making new plans. Let's text her and see that we can meet tomorrow as well, because as nice as that kiss was, that kiss should also come tomorrow. Wouldn't that be nice? So pleasure turns into hopes eventually, right? And now imagine this goes on for a while, and I live with this person. Maybe I come home to her. I mean, I just something like that. The next day, while we are eating, when she's laughing, I have a chance to see her teeth. And I see that her teeth are all black. But I couldn't see that until now. Now I see all her teeth are black. Do you think with that information I could enjoy, the same kiss I had the day before, now would I enjoy that? What changed about the experience? It's the same kiss, right? But now I'm no longer able to enjoy that. How? Because if it's the kiss that is so nice, it should be still the same. So this is a really nice example where you can see the happiness of the kiss is completely mind-made. So this thing is mind-made. Should I repeat the example again, so we can really understand how mind-made this happiness is? The day before I kissed her, and it felt so great. But now I want to meet her tomorrow again, because I would like to kiss her again. But then when I sit at the dining table before we have a chance to kiss, we are smiling and we are laughing about something, and I don't know, this is an example came to my mind right now. And when she's smiling and laughing so much, I see her teeth, and I see all of her teeth are infected with some sort of I don't know what it is, but everything is black. Really disgusting, let's say. So then, the same kiss that happened on the day before, would I be able to enjoy that? Or imagine that some of my friends would have sent me a picture of these teeth before I had the chance to kiss her. Would I still enjoy the same experience that I enjoyed so much on the day before? So it can't be the kiss then. It's all made in the mind, right? It's all based on views. The views that what we think we associate and what we think has a value. If we have some idea of what it is that we associate, and if that is something that we value, and these things come together, this void releases, then that's the happiness we feel. So it can be, it depends on a number of things. What you are looking for is very important. There could be someone who's looking for a girl with black teeth. I don't know if there's such a person. But if that is someone who maybe some people have this kind of a fetish or something like that. They are really looking to do that. Now, then of course that would make them happy a lot. Because their views are different, right? This is now what they are looking for. So it depends on the views that we have, and then what we think we associate. So it's always what we think has happened, actually, not really what's really out there, right? See, even if she had, imagine she really has these black teeth, but I didn't know about it the day before. I didn't know that she had that. Wouldn't I still enjoy that? I don't know that she has these teeth, and I kiss her. I feel so happy. Then the day after I find out. So now I'm no longer able to enjoy. So whether she actually has them or not doesn't really matter. It matters what I think she has, right? Because although I can't see the teeth, the mind always completes the rest according to his own ideas. So the point is, anyways, with this simple example, I hope you understand, it's mind-made happiness. It doesn't come from there, but our mind, because of ignorance, it doesn't understand that these are mind-made. It always feels, no, these are actually substantial and these are really in the world. There is happiness in the kiss. That's why people want it. That's why people want it. So ignorance doesn't know this fact that it's mind-made and what really happens. That's why we have hopes. And Now we talked about this point, happiness turns into sadness. So happiness in a relationship is what? Is whenever an expectation that is there in the mind or in your mind, whenever an expectation in your mind is being fulfilled, that's what we call happiness. This is the formula for happiness in a relationship, the fulfilling of an expectation. So whenever you feel happy, so that I will write that down. And suffering is then what? It is when she doesn't cook for me. It is when he doesn't write me a message. It is when he doesn't clean the dining table into the dishwasher. It is when he doesn't lift up the toilet seat. It is when he goes to bed later than me. These are all these things when there are sufferings.
Isn't kiss you back? That example isn't kiss you back.
Yes. So it is when all these things happen, right? Or is it when what we want doesn't happen? When what we doesn't want happen? When we don't get what we want? So this happiness turns into suffering here in this example, right? So I kissed this girl and it was a very, very nice day, nice moment. Next day I see, oh, actually that's her teeth are like that. So isn't that happiness turns into suffering? Or maybe more realistically, maybe in today's time, I was able to kiss her, but next day I find out she doesn't want to be with me. Now happiness turned into suffering. So when the hopes were fulfilled, it gave a moment of pleasure, but when the hopes are being clashed, see, you find out someone has already another partner, but you don't want to be with that person. Let's say I tell you, no, there's this man or this person. Do you know he or she is in a relationship? Do you care about that? Does it hurt you? No, nothing, right? So why does it hurt us to know that someone is in a relationship? Or why does it hurt someone? Well, it only hurts you if you want to be with that person, right? Not because he or she is in a relationship. So, hopes. So these are states of the mind, happiness and suffering, as long as we believe that this idea, the idea of ignorance. Because actually if you realize what has really happened all this while, then you can't say there was ever anything happy here, nor was there any sort of suffering here. So what I mean was, Simply certain events have happened. When this kiss happened, was there something special? No. The only thing that happened was a kiss, an event. Not something that brought happiness, just an event. When somebody is already in a relationship, then that's also just an event. So the happiness part and the suffering part was added onto this event by the mind. So the kiss happened, the mind put the pleasure inside. Someone is already in a relationship and the mind put the suffering inside. Why? These two things, they are done by this second process of the mind. Okay, now I want to explain what knowing this helps in our lives. I think that's the point we're still missing a little bit. See, when you so happiness is not something that we can find by other people. They are not our salvation, right? Being with someone is not the salvation. It doesn't mean that there's a problem with being with someone, not like that, but people always think that this is my salvation for happiness. But when you can go and analyze your feelings and your problems in life through this lens of these two things, happiness and suffering, now where should you focus on? Because the kiss or the toilet seat or not cleaning after yourself, like when your partner doesn't clean after himself, let's say he leaves things dirty. What happens there is an environment is created in which your mind creates your own suffering. Not that he or she creates suffering in you. It creates only an environment where your mind creates your own suffering, its own suffering. This is how you have to understand, because then can you blame the other person for something that he has done? You wouldn't do that. Now you will realize the problem with expectation is there. Because it is this expectation process within yourself which creates your problems. So your problems are yours, the other person's problems are the other person's problems. Both of you are living with a mind which is infected by a disease called wanting or disease called defilement, ignorance. That means you will never be able to make the other person happy, and you are never the reason why he or she is unhappy. So whenever somebody tells you, it's because you are like that I'm unhappy, don't buy that. Because you are not guilty for making someone unhappy. That doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. That's really wrong. Like, you should try to create an environment for other people to be happy in. That is important. But it's not your responsibility to make another person happy. You are not there to be another person's slave, and by doing so when the other person is not happy and you start to think, I did something wrong. You should be alert in this moment, because it's not your job to always please and make another person happy. You can't do that, because whenever there's someone living with a mind full of ignorance and attachment, that mind will never be happy anyways. For a moment, yes, but never really. So don't think you should be able to fulfill the other person. You can't. But what you can do is to realize your real problem and the other person's real problem. Both of you have a problem, not the one that you think you have with each other. The problem that you both have is ignorance and attachment. Means suffering keeps boiling up from the inside. That thing is something you can address together just as much as alone. But for your own sake, you should address it for yourself, but you can help the other person as well to address it in their mind as well. Yes.
Second day you try to kiss the person and it doesn't work out, but then it doesn't affect you. Then what is that situation?
It doesn't affect you.
Yeah, you say it doesn't really matter. No, you don't suffer, it's fine. You can walk away from the situation.
Okay. Yeah. See, sometimes we have these situations that we are fine with something not working out in our favor. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yes. See, on the surface it seems like we are fine with that. Like, I mean, I know that sometimes I watched a football match and Germany lost, and I said, yeah, that's fine. And actually I felt that it was fine. It didn't really affect me much. But see, deep down in our mind, what we then think is, normally what we think is, well, it is because I have other things I can rely on anyways, right? So that means our object of attachment switches, we should be able to say. So we are fine with a kiss not working out because, well, maybe there's another person, or maybe there's something else, right? There's something else that we are chasing or going after, then it's fine.
Should that always be the case? Couldn't that be just that, okay, there's no reason, can be fine, you are back, and then you don't need for it anymore. I mean, don't want a case. And should it always be linked to something that there is always another alternative, that is why you're not happy? Then you are
Yeah. That's, you can see, can you take anything in your life, let's say the wanting for a kiss or something else, can you simply say, from now onwards, I'll no longer want to have it? So in other words, not having it is fine with me. Can you say that? To a certain extent we can feel like that and we can say that, but like, I know one thing that happens with us is, yeah, I can stop smoking, yes I can do, then I'll do something else instead. Maybe do sports or some kind of other activity. So in other words, it's not really like detaching, it's more like just changing the object of attachment. That is normally what people do until they come to the Dhamma. That's what they can do. Knowingly or unknowingly, they are just changing the object of attachment. Or for a while they really believe that they are now they are detached. But if you really wait long enough, the desire will come back to you.
So that's what you say, substitution.
Yes. Usually, the thing is, and you can understand why it's not possible to detach without Dhamma. What I mean is that the attachment goes away and that's it. Because with this principle of cause and effect, we can understand, the Buddha has explained this very simply, that for an effect to cease, what has to happen for an effect to cease? Let's say, take a fire. I think Dasahamru talked about this as well. For a fire to cease, you need to remove one of the causes. If all the causes are there, can you expect the fire to not be there? Won't be there. So attachment, or we can call it in another name as wanting. Yeah, vexation. I'm really pleased to see that you are picking up this logic and working with it. So that is, I should say, very much correct to bring these two together. But in our monastery, we have this like a wooden plate where it's written Tanhava Nisai Pidava. So see, what it says is, because of attachment happens Pidava. Pidava means vexation. So it's not the same thing. It's not the same. Causal means because of wanting or attachment, vexation happens. Because vexation is a very much unpleasant feeling. That part no one likes. Right? For example, when people are stressed, they don't like to be stressed. So for example, when you want to write a good exam, they don't want to be stressed about the exam, but the wanting to have a good exam, which is at the root of the stress, they don't want to remove that. I mean, usually what we want is, we don't want this, but we want to keep this, right? What we always try to do is getting rid of the vexation while keeping the wanting. This is impossible, because cause and effect, right? How can you not be stressed if you want to have something? You will always have the fear not to have it, or what if, so stress will be there. So there's no way you can get rid of that. So these are very much linked. So when attachment is there, vexation happens. This is the effect and this is the cause. So you can't remove the effect while the causes are there. This will not work. That's why the Buddha has not advised you to do something with vexation. You can't get rid of anything you do to get rid of vexation itself, as in to treat this problem, will not solve it. Really, you will only postpone the problem, and it will become bigger. Right? This is typically the case when people have a lustful feeling, and in order to get rid of the lustful feeling, which is a vexation, they have a child, or they do something in the outside world. Maybe they watch something. It only aggravates the problems at the end of the day. You're getting caught in this cycle that brings you down, right? So anyways, but we were talking about wanting, and then actually we were talking about why we can't get rid of this attachment just like that. Isn't it? That was what we were talking about? Yeah, so why can't we get rid of the attachment?
Because the perceptions we have about attachment.
Yeah, because at the root of this attachment is views. So the thing is, the Buddha has explained, attachment can't be removed as long as there is ignorance. And ignorance is basically our idea that in this world entities exist, and in this case, love and happiness is something that exists in this world. Kiss is something special. Kiss brings happiness. And like happiness and suffering, basically, these two things are things there in the world. Simply spoken, suffering and happiness exist in this world. Or basically, when we believe outside worlds bring happiness or suffering, outside world have these things, that's when we will automatically, attachment will happen no matter what. You can't stop that. See, let me just rephrase the same thing. I will just say value is in the object. Value exists in the objects. What do I mean with values in the object? Well, kiss is something nice, valuable. If somebody is already in a relationship, then that is not good. Right? So that is something bad. So this ignorance that the outside world has these objects with different values, when we're living in such a world, automatically the mind will have preferences, right? As soon as you believe this is more valuable than this, wouldn't you have a preference? You can't stop that anymore. So the attachment will be there. Attachment in the sense that the expectation, the hope, the wanting to have this instead of that. So, because our mind runs firmly on this belief that values can be assigned to external things. It's there in the objects. But what we need to understand it is just a feeling. It's something our mind cooks up. It's just a.
Your mindset.
Yeah. Just like what I gave this example. See, we feel the kiss has the happiness, but when you see, but the same kiss, knowing the teeth of that person, somehow there's no happiness anymore. So how much is in the kiss itself? There wasn't ever anything in there. So kiss is actually just an experience. It's a sight, sound, smell, and taste are completely neutral experiences. Touch can be pleasant or unpleasant, but not mentally, physically. So why can we attach? So what people try to do, for example, they try to no longer want to do something like maybe smoking, or they try to detach. They try to get rid of this, but they don't know about this. So what will always happen is the mind will always seek out something else instead. For example, what I used to do once was, in some time of my life, I like to eat sweets and enjoy maybe foods. Then I felt I should reduce my weight. Then, see, good example. So the challenge when I'm doing these sermons is to explain these not difficult concepts, but to give examples which are so simple that it's very easy to get the point immediately. Sometimes I'm failing in doing that, but I feel like I'm improving sometimes. Now I'll try again with some other example. See, there was a time in my life when eating, let's say maybe I spend my time playing computers, and at 6 p.m., there was a bar of chocolate, and I used to get that and eat. And what would happen? It would make me happy. I feel happy is something you should understand in the right way, right? Pleasure, yeah, that's what happened. Okay, but you know how that is, right? When you're eating chocolate and you're playing computer, there will be side consequences. What are the side consequences? You're growing vertically, and maybe you're not feeling well as well. So for that reason, I decided I shouldn't do that. Let me make a diet. So I did once in my life, I did a diet when I was very naive, 18 years old, but it was a very good lesson. So for that month, and at that time I was really into having a good having a beautiful, maybe having a healthy and nice looking body, right? I once had that craziness came to me for a while. So I decided to have a diet. So in other words, now I'm detaching from this bar of chocolates, right? So this is what I do. So no more chocolate, just milk, eggs, proteins, no sugars, nothing like that. For 1 month I did it. So at the end of the day, what happened at 6 p.m. was so this was last month when I still thought I should attach to the chocolate. Now I had the diet, so what happened was the mind attached to diet, which means instead of attaching to chocolate, now it attaches to no chocolate. So now so the thing is this, it's not detaching. What happened is the attachment to chocolate changed to the attachment to no chocolate. So because why? Now you can see this. What happened at 6 p.m. today was no chocolate happened. I didn't have a bar of chocolate. And when I didn't have a bar of chocolate, how did I feel about that? So happy, right? So happy. Now let's think about this logically with all the things you learned from coming here the last few weeks. Let's think about it. Why did this pleasure happen? It is because there was a wanting for chocolate, and that happened. The fulfilling of that expectation. So that pleasure here happened why? Because there was a wanting as well, right? The wanting for no chocolate was there. That also happened. That's why there was happiness. So was it really detaching, or was it just attaching to the opposite? Attaching to the opposite. And I can prove it to you even more, because what happened was, for 1 month I did it, and then I went shopping with my mother. Shopping means every Friday she used to go to the supermarket and buy for the full week all the groceries and everything that we need. Right? So I went with her. And I just finished 1 month of diet, so I had lost many kilos, maybe even 10. It was a bit unhealthily much. I brought up all my willpower to stay away from sweets and everything for 1 month, and I eat very healthily. Only honey I used to eat with this like, I don't know. I don't think you have this here, quark. So this is like a very low-fat, milky kind of a lot very very common in Germany as well. Anyways, so then I went shopping with my mother. At that moment. Actually, the thing is, so partly these attachments, they just become very much suppressed. So when I went into the supermarket, for 1 month I was able to enjoy the happiness of not eating, which was just relieving this vexation, right? Now, however, the urge was so strong for something sweet, then I said to myself, okay, I did it for 1 month, right? For 1 month I had a diet, so let me just have some nice snack. So I bought them. We bought a 10 packs of, I mean, there was them like a bar, let's say a bar of, there are these bars, or something like, usually you eat one of these, right? And you buy one of these, but for 10 is for the family. So for the full family, you put it into the fridge and everyone can have one. So we bought 10 for the family. Then my mother we finished the shopping for one supermarket, put all the things in the car. She used to go to another supermarket to buy some extra stuff. So I was in the car and I said, no, let me have one. Right? And I ate all 10. So, and that was not the only thing. I mean, this was not enough to release this vexation that I had in my mind, because I couldn't stop myself eating even these 10. The days after, I used to eat whatever came my way, and really, 2 weeks down the line, I was back where I started. Same kilograms. So nothing changed. But it was a very important lesson to me. I think maybe because of this lesson, I realized very easily when my teachers told me this, that attachment can't be something you can get rid of, because you can suppress it. Sometimes you can, and funnily enough, so the mind is so funny, because in this moment, the no bar of chocolate gives you the pleasure, but see, when I was in the car and I had this snacks, then it was again the snack which brought me happiness. But then in the evening, when I think about what I have done today, so let's say at 7 p.m. Let's keep the time the same, at 6 p.m. Now I had it again. See, even when I had it, even the moment when I was consuming it, some of these minds, they felt so happy. But another mind felt so unhappy, right? It depends on which mind arises. So when there's a mind that had been looking for the taste, actually these two attachments, they coexist. We can say like that. Both of these attachments are there in the mind. The attachment for chocolate and the attachment for not chocolate. So it's not like either one or the other is there. They are both there, both of them. So one mind wants the chocolate, and when it gets it, happiness is there. Then there's another mind which doesn't want the chocolate, and then that one suffers. So these are the different thought patterns happening very quickly after another in our mind. That's why sometimes people feel like there's two people in themselves, or there's multiple personalities in them. I mean, now of course there's this schizophrenia and things like that. That is not what I'm talking about. But don't you feel like sometimes you don't know what you want, because sometimes you want it, so you don't want it, right? So there are so many voices within us telling us different things, so we can't make our way. So do I want it or do I not want it? So this is the thing. What happens here is, depending on the causes coming together, different wantings manifest. But we can say, in a certain way, attachment for both is there. Right? So attachment for both doesn't mean no attachment. It actually makes the problem only worse. So by forcefully detaching, what you're actually doing is, you're attaching. Right? Because you can't detach by doing something. You can't get rid of attachment by an action, because action in itself is also rooted in attachment. I mean, yes, we can say like that. So, now I had this bar of chocolate and I was suffering. Why? Because the wanting here was not to eat, but the eating happened, suffering was there. So now you can understand, wherever there's suffering, there's attachment. Whenever there's happiness, there's attachment. And sometimes there can be attachment for having and not having. But that's still suffering. That is actually double the suffering. Because your mind doesn't even know what it wants. So one mind will say great, one mind will say not great, and then the other one will say great, and the other not great. See? So anyways, what's the solution then? See, the solution is to realize these wantings happen, wanting to have and wanting not to have, because we feel having is bringing me happiness, or not having will bring me happiness. That's one way you can say. Once I explained this a little bit deeper with this idea of creating an identity. So I will try another day to explain this concept again, right? But ultimately, the Buddha's way of detaching is not something you can do. All you really need to do is do merits, come here, listen to this, make sense of it and realize it. And when this realizing happens, this ignorance slowly fades away. And then this is like when you have a fire, suddenly there's no more wood, no more fuel to fuel the fire, or less. What will happen to the fire? Do you need to reduce it? Do you have to do anything about the fire then? It'll automatically stop, right? You don't ever have to do anything about the fire, and you can't. You can only work on the causes, right? So once ignorance, because these are all things which keep happening. So these are fueled by the causes. Ignorance fuels wanting, fuels vexation. So the moment that this ignorance is gone, that means that the realization there's nothing worthy wanting, nothing essential, nothing there, special there, that all I was chasing was an illusion. There was never anything there. And and happiness is not something that I have to achieve, it's already there within. The natural state of the mind is happiness. With that awareness, the problem stops. And then there's no need for a solution. See, I thought by making this diet, I can find happiness by that way. When I achieve this, when I don't do this, then that will bring me happiness. So this is what the Buddha tried when he did these ascetic years, right? Actually, this was this approach. Not to eat anything, in hoping that someday he will find happiness by abstaining from things. It doesn't work, because it's also an attachment. That's why this path, which is based on cause and effect, is what really works. And that is not something you can do, it's just something to realize. So in other words, that makes it much more fun. Fun because we never have to let go of anything. That doesn't mean that we can just do whatever we want. No, we have to be very mindful about what we do, but we shouldn't focus our efforts on abstaining blindly. We should try to work on the actual causes which bring about this freedom, which are based in doing merits and realizing the Dhamma. That's why we came here. Without the Dhamma, no one could have achieved this freedom anyways. It's impossible. Because how can you get rid of the effect as long as the causes are there? Can't you do that? So we need to get our hands around this concept of cause and effect. And that's not complicated. And understand these processes. So today we went through a lot of good points. And I really hope that these are things which you can make use of in your lives, because always point out your own problem as there. Point out the problem whenever you deal with people, always point out and see where your real problem is. That's the expectations. And have compassion for the people around you being also victim to their own expectations or their own wantings, because they are also infected by this disease. So have compassion for that. Don't blame them. It's not them who is at fault, it's these defilements. So be tolerant with them, patient with them, understand why they do that. That is not the problem that we have to concern ourselves with, as in, this is not what causes our problem. Our problem comes with our expectations only. Then what we can do is help each other solve the real problem. Not delude each other into thinking that the problem is, that my problem is you, and you should change, or the problem is in the outside world. And not tell each other that I will be able to save you, I'll be able to give you happiness and you give happiness to me, then there's no problem. Because that is complete lie, right? This is usually what happens in a relationship. People tell each other, see, I am going to make you happy, you're going to make me happy, then we don't need to do anything. But that's not how it works. So if you really love your partner, you should not make him feel like you are the solution to his problems or her problems. You should, out of love and kindness, help this person find happiness within themselves. That doesn't mean to become careless. Nothing like that. It's simply to say, as much as I love you, I can't make you happy. Happiness is something you have to find within yourself. So let's go and do some merits then. Why don't you come to the sermons? Why don't you listen to some sermons at least? Work on your spiritual development, because if we don't do that, we all have to face the bill someday. We have to face the consequences someday. If you can't be happy without me, and if I can't be happy without you, then someday the problem will become a big problem. Maybe not today, but tomorrow. Still today also, we have to do a lot of things out of the fear of something could happen. See, our happiness is so dependent on so many things, and every day we have to do a lot so that we keep ourselves afloat, so that we don't start to suffer. Because our mind is so used to, it needs so many things, people around, and many other things. Okay, so for today we're going to stop and share our merits. So this question, why do relationships often lead to happiness but also to suffering? I mean, I can talk for this for another 3 hours, I guess, to varying depths of this problem, but I think that the most important things have been mentioned. And someday we'll talk about it again. Okay. let's transfer our merits. Let us take a moment to transfer all the merits that we have acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, inviting the Swami Nohanse to deliver the sermon, offering flowers and oil lamps and various offerings to the Lord Buddha, coming to the sermon on this Sunday morning, and listening and contemplating the Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha, in order to change our lives and become better human beings and find salvation, find peace of mind, and also share that peace of mind with others. All these merits, let us now take a moment to express our gratitude, first and foremost, to all the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas, upasikas, who since immemorial times have protected and preserved these teachings and have given them from generation to generation in the noble lineage, so that even today we can understand and realize the Dhamma for ourselves. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all of the chapters, all the different nikayas, all the monks and nuns, and everyone who has committed their whole lives to practicing the noble path and committed themselves towards helping all sentient beings free themselves. And especially think about all the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side throughout your lives, and also be grateful for their support. Let's also transfer these merits to Guru Tero and all the monks resident at the monastery, as well as all the anagarikas and anagarikas present at the monastery and who are keeping the monastery running so that I can be here today and talk with you, because someone else will keep up doing the essential work. Let's also transfer these merits and express our gratitude to all those who have made great efforts to share this message or to invite others to come to the sermon, or who share the Dhamma with others, or who make others aware about the chance to listen to the Dhamma, because of which we are here today and we can listen to this and discuss this together. We can discuss the Dhamma together because of someone. Let's also transfer these merits to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who always support the Mahasangha by providing the 4 requisites and sharing their know-how and their well wishes, and always supporting us, without which we could not do anything. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the warful plane, they redeem themselves and be born in a blissful plane. May they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits and express our gratitude to each and everyone who has made this event possible, from the school and beyond, who continuously supports the possibility of having Dhamma sessions in here, directly or indirectly. Let's also transfer these merits to our families, mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces. Especially think about all the people who have taken upon themselves some responsibility that you would have to do on Sunday mornings, but because of them taking this responsibility, now you can be here and work on your own salvation and have a chance to earn merits for attaining Nibbana, which are very, very precious. So many people have given us support for that as well. Think about all the teachers which have guided you in this life, and may through the power of these merits, each and everyone who has helped us and supported us, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments. So everyone who has made this event possible, as well as all families and so on. May each of them be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits and demons, especially the Sakradeva and all the numerous gods and deities who are always committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddha-sasana. Let's also transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May, through power of these merits, they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our ancestors, all those who have predeceased us, all those who have been family and friends to us in this infinitely long journey of samsara. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the armed forces as well as the police forces who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their lives in the war, be they friend or foe, rejoice in the merits we have acquired today. Let's also transfer these merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities, such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, and pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been family and friends to us in this infinite long journey of samsara. May through power of these merits, if any of them have been born in a woeful plane, they redeem themselves and be born in a blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let's all resolve that may through power of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants on this blessed land. And finally, let's all resolve that may through power of all the merits we have acquired today, you and I and everyone who has helped to make this program a success become Arahata no Hanse, Narat Mihine no Hanse, in this very life itself, and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now you will receive the blessings from the Mahasangha. Raga ginin midetva, dvesha ginin midetva, moha ginin midetva, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, sukhita taravetnva, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, sukhita taravetnva, mamada siyalu loka, siyalu satvayo, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, sukhita taravetnva, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, sukhita taravetnva, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, sukhita taravetnva. Raga gini niveva, dvesha gini niveva, moha gini niveva, nivan sapala bheva, nivan sapala bheva, Nivan sapala bheva. Tunuruange suisi ananta mahaguna belen, siyalu loka siyalu satyo, Nibbāna parama sukhin, sukhitara venta. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.